and I will start checking people in.
Great. So where was this picture taken, Kay?
Cape San Blas, where the hurricane hit today.
Oh, this is
That's
the before picture.
yes. Actually, if I get out of the way, it's a way before picture because that's Lady, not Dory. So it's
Oh,
a lot of years ago. But just actually, I think by the time it made landfall at Cape San Blas, it was not even a hurricane anymore. But I'm sure it was still pretty wild there on the beach.
oh, I bet.
And if you can all hear our dog barking, that means Mark's takeout just arrived. Carol, for whatever reason, I guess because you're a co-host, I can't put a V in front of your name. I assume you can rename yourself. So if you would do that.
Sure.
I need to go get a Kleenex. I'll be right back. Hi, everyone. This is Debbie. We're going to wait a couple more minutes before we get started, since there seem to be people that are still joining the meeting. Yes, here they all come. There are two people that have joined on their phones. Would the person whose number ends in 6204, would you identify yourself so we can change the participant list and add your name? And the other number is 3402.
This is Officer Gill from Code Enforcement. I'm in replacement with Officer Wembley today.
Okay, and which number was yours?
6204.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name.
Gill, Gill.
Oh, okay. And the other number ending in 3402?
You might need to tell them how to unmute on the phone, Debbie.
Okay, you unmute using *6 on your phone?
Terrell from Human Parking Services.
I'm sorry, was this Mark Banta?
No, it's Terrell from the Conservancy.
Oh, okay, thanks, Terrell.
And just out of curiosity, how do I mute? Because I'm traveling, so
*6
star six, mutes and unmutes. Okay, sorry.
does both. No, you're fine. Thank you. I should have mentioned that. Okay. Okay, I think we're going to get started. Oh, there we go.
And David, just so you know, Mark is also driving, so he will pop in as soon as he can.
Okay, and he said that he was on the phone. Do you know the last 4 digits of his number?
He may not be on yet because he was driving, and I think he's trying to follow all laws and not mess with his phone while he's driving. So
Yes, it's smart. Smart to
Debbie,
say that. Yes.
Debbie, it's Mark. It's 7634. I'm chatting you, but I don't think you can see it. I have no video. This is my home office number, 7634. I made it home, Terrell. Thank you.
Okay, I did see your chat, and are you sending that by text?
I sent it via Howard's link. I don't actually have I don't have the Zoom link on my computer, so I used Howard's credentials to log in.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, everybody, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 7:09. Welcome to the August meeting of NPU F. I'm Debbie Skipchinsky and chair of the meeting. Also with me tonight is Kay Stevenson, who is vice chair. Excuse me. Carol Shunara, who will be taking minutes this evening, Jane Rawlings, who is our alcohol and permits chair, and Doug Young, who is the assigned planner from the city of Department of City Planning. Tonight, there are 2 agendas, the one with the map on it and a second consent agenda, which are simple applications which historically this NPU has approved with little or no discussion. Both will be placed in the chat as soon as we get underway. A quick orientation for first time or infrequent Zoom users. When you entered the room, your audio was muted. Please stay muted throughout the meeting so that background noise does not interrupt the flow of the meeting. You can unmute on your screen or use *6 to mute and unmute if you're listening in on your phone. Zoom publishes a participant list which lists everyone who is attending this meeting. Your name will be at the top of the list. If there's more than one person using the same device, please include both names on the participant list. Click on more, the word more, next to your name, and there will be a drop-down box with an option to rename. If you have verified as a resident of the NPU, you will see a V, the letter V, in front of your name. Please do not change that. We will only be counting verified members for votes that require more than a majority or when the city requires a hand count vote. If you've registered as a member but have not sent in a verification of residency or ownership, your vote will count as provisional, and you will have 24 hours to complete the registration. An important note, registering on Zoom for this meeting is not the same as registering as a member. For most votes, we'll be using the honor system tonight. Please resist the urge to vote if you don't live in the NPU. If you want to register as a member, there is a link on the NPU F website and also on Facebook. You'll get more instructions when or if we need to use this method of voting later on in the meeting. Our meetings follow a town hall format, which means that anyone at the meeting is able to speak. Also, residents of NPUF may vote on any issues unless they have a financial interest in the application or motion. For example, a property or business owners may not vote on their own variances, but can vote on others. If you're not an NPU resident, business owners may vote if they have met the requirements as described in our bylaws. At the bottom of the participant screen, you will see several icons that say raise your hand, yes and no. If you've updated your Zoom account in the last year, you'll find these buttons behind the reactions tab, which for most people is going to be at the bottom of the screen. Most votes will be a hand count using the raise your hand icon. There is a chat room, which is also accessed from the bottom of the screen. You can share comments to an individual or everyone in the meeting. For most of you, it'll be at the bottom of the screen. Copies of the agenda, the minutes for July will be uploaded in a few minutes. Someone will be monitoring the chat room for comments and questions, but we will only be answering questions if they are relevant to the topic being discussed. We'd like to, okay, we've already changed the phone numbers. We've got a couple more that have just popped up, so we'll catch those folks in a bit. Remember, please, that if we don't have your full name or if you didn't leave a name when you registered on Zoom, you are not here. The only way that we know that people are attending the meeting is by giving us full information. If you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand function, or if you're on your phone, hit *9. You'll be called on to speak in order that the hands go up. Be sure to stay muted until you're invited to speak, and then identify yourself so folks who know will know who is speaking. Please don't wave your hand on screen unless you are just being friendly, because there are too many people in the room for me to see it. And please do not speak unless you're called on. Others may be in the queue and waiting their turn to speak. Please keep all questions and comments germane to the topic being addressed and respectful of everyone in the meeting. I'll be watching the time and may need to cut off discussion so that we can get through our entire agenda in a reasonable amount of time. To allow all an opportunity to speak, I'm going to ask that you only speak once on a topic unless you are asked for clarification or a question on previous remarks. So that we can all hear and we can get a good recording for the archives, it's important that only one person speaks at a time. If you interrupt, you will be muted. And it's campaign season again. Reminder that any form of campaigning is prohibited at NPU meetings. Please do not introduce yourself as a candidate or representing a candidate or post any campaign literature in the chat. Posters or signs in the background or on your screensaver are also a no-no. Candidates, as are all citizens, are welcome to participate at NPUF meetings, but public shaming and banishment will be swift. Finally, we are here tonight because the City Council has given the residents of Atlanta through the NPU system the opportunity to provide recommendations on applications and legislative changes that impact our quality of life. It's our responsibility to tell them what we think, and when appropriate, to share that strength of that opinion through hand counts. All votes taken at the NPU are only recommendations. Final decisions are made by the city boards or city council, and I hope you'll take advantage of expressing your opinion there as well, either in writing, by phone, or by leaving a comment during public hearing opportunities. The first order of business is the approval of minutes. I want to thank Aruna Narasimhan for taking the minutes last month. The July minutes were posted on the NPUF website, and a copy was sent to those on the NPU mailing list and verified members. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Terry. And I'm sorry, who was the second?
Jane Rawlings.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, and we're going to do a hand count on approving the minutes, but this is primarily so that folks can make sure that they know where the reactions button is. So if you're an NPUF member, please raise your hand if you're in favor of approving the minutes. Once again, the raise hand button is either going to be at the bottom of the participant list or under the reactions tab, which for most of you will be at the bottom of your screen. Okay, there's one person that has left a thumbs up. That's going to disappear in a few seconds. So you might want to check. Okay, got it. There's one yes check mark. That's also going to go away in a few seconds. Okay. I see 18 hands raised and one thumbs up. So let me lower your hands. Is there anyone that's opposed? Please raise your hand. Whoops. Are there really 11 people opposed to the minutes? Okay. All right, why can't I lower hands? Okay. Are there 3 people that are opposed to the minutes?
Debbie, my hand is staying up, but I don't oppose.
That's what I thought. And I have been able to lower hands, but for some reason, it's not allowing me to do that today.
And it's not allowing me to lower it either. So just as information, admin.
Well, how can I clear that?
Yeah, same here, Debbie. I have a check mark and it's not coming off.
Well, this is just the weirdest thing. Every month we have something different. Okay. All right. We've got 2 hands down and Rich, maybe it'll disappear after a while. Okay. I'm going to say that the minutes were approved. I'm just going to take a guess. Okay, I have 2 announcements. The first is that the annual review and approval of our bylaws and our policy statement is due by September 30th. That would be next month. This is a hard and fast date. Last year, we made some changes to clarify the language within the bylaws and to add virtual meetings into the bylaws. So we're not expecting changes this year, but if you would like to propose a bylaw change, please send an email to chair@npuf.org. Second, the Zoning and Executive Committee will meet on Monday, April 23rd at 7 p.m. via Zoom to review a zoning request by Emory University. This is rezoning residential property to office institutional at the Haygood North Decatur Triangle. Proposed bylaw changes, if any, will also be discussed. A notice for the meeting was sent to NPU Executive Committee and neighborhood presidents in July asking for changes to the bylaws. This meeting is open to the public. The Zoom link is on the consent agenda, which still hasn't gone up, but will soon. There will be opportunity later in the meeting to discuss proposed bylaw changes if there are any. Okay. Reports from city departmental representatives. We have at least two from Atlanta Police Department. Major Senzer.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you for being here tonight.
Excellent.
And welcome back.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. I am Andrew Senzer. I'm the major and commander of the Zone 2 precinct for the Atlanta Police Department. I see my colleague, Captain Zenelage is on from Zone 6 as well. Of course, my dog wants to bark at my neighbors now, but we'll truck through this. I have a few updates on a couple of locations. Some of you may already be aware of this because you are a fantastic and engaged NPU. But I'll go over them anyway for those who may not. So the Street Bistro at 2184 Cheshire Bridge Road, and hopefully you can hear me over my dogs. On August 7th, our license and permits unit, along with Zone 2 personnel, served a search warrant at the location. We, of course, have been receiving information that they were operating as a after-hours club, and our investigators obtained information as well that they were charging $550 for a bottle of alcohol, or close to $1,100 for 2 bottles for 2 people if you show up there and are willing to pay that at 4 a.m. And you can stay until the sun comes up. So we obtained a search warrant. We identified the Kennedy Johnson as being the manager, and we seized approximately 365 bottles of distilled spirits from the location. Miss Johnson was placed under arrest and charged with storing distilled spirits without a license, 10-47 Atlanta City Ordinance, and the Georgia Department of Revenue and Alcohol and Tobacco Division was already contacted and will be following up with a cease and desist for the sale of distilled alcohol. So that was a really good win for us with that location, and our license and permits unit will be putting together a due cause package, which will be presented sometime in the near future. So speaking of other due cause packages, we recently had a hearing for Allure. This one was related to the gunfire that occurred over there within the past year. A huge shootout, extremely dangerous situation in the parking lot. Officers. That sits on the LRB, appointed by the mayor. Our team did a phenomenal job presenting the evidence and made a very compelling argument to move forward with penalties. But unfortunately, the board voted 3-2 in favor of dismissing this due cause. It's worth noting that there were 2 individuals on the board who did not vote. I don't know why they didn't vote. I don't know if they abstained or they weren't paying attention, but they didn't vote. So that's an unfortunate circumstance. And as you already know, Allure is already appealing a previous due cause for exceeding their operating hours on a date well over a year ago. So these are the challenges that we face. The amount of manpower and effort that we put into investigating and writing up the due cause packages, and the time that it takes to do this, unfortunately, sometimes doesn't result in the outcome that we'd like, or with a penalty that isn't as strong as we'd like to see. But I just want to let you know that we are out there doing everything we possibly can related to businesses that are misbehaving. Any questions on either of those 2 locations?
If you have a question, please raise your hand. Jane?
First, Major Sinzer, I want to thank you and Mr. Sigelman for the case that APD put together. I too thought it was very compelling. Unfortunately, not the decision the community would have liked to see. Towards that end, knowing that there have been so many violations at this location, do you anticipate moving forward with additional due cause packages against this business?
Well, We are, and it is, to my knowledge, we have information that would allow us to move forward with at least one, possibly two more due cause packages. It's out of my shop, so I don't know how they're going to prioritize that, putting that together, but this place is definitely problematic, and whenever we have the opportunity to move forward with something, I'm sure that that our license and permits unit will do so. Lieutenant Cotter and his team have been fantastic, and as you know, they spend a lot of time in zone 2, really in that area in general, dealing with these spots. So yeah, we'll keep pushing that one along. So if there are no other questions related to that location, I'll talk about one other spot. And unfortunately, we received information related to Futo's towing from residents and businesses in the Manchester district. I had an opportunity to drive by late last week and put my eyes on it, and I was not happy at all with what I saw out there. They're not being good neighbors, and I spoke directly with Diane, who's the owner of the company, and I also engaged zoning as well, and she has a extremely short window to get her act together with the operations over there. We actually moved 2 vehicles off the street today. I understand, while I understand that she is having issues with the courts related to processing the vehicles, which is holding up her ability to move those vehicles to auction, which is thus causing her lot to overflow. That shouldn't be the community's problem. It's certainly not going to be a problem that I'm going to be willing to take on and allow to happen. So she understands that citations and investigations from our zoning unit are going to be forthcoming if they don't shore up their operations and clean things up over there. And that's all I got.
Thank you. That has been a problem area for a while. Captain Zenelay?
Hi, good afternoon, or good evening, I should say. Thank you. Yes, Captain Zenelay, Zone 6. Major Reese could not be here, regrettably, tonight. Something about open house with the child. I'm sure he's happy to be there visiting with the teachers. So thank you, Major Senzer, for the introduction. I appreciate it. I'll just give an overview real quick of NPU F as we see it from July till right now. We are seeing increases in larceny from autos. Valuable items continue to be left in vehicles. We'll push the clean car campaign as we continue to do so. A lot of these vehicle break-ins are stemming from visitors to our bar areas and some of the social areas, the Highlands, the Ponce Place, that sort of thing up there on Cheshire Bridge. I can't help but feel that the bridge being out on Cheshire Bridge is kind of helping us out a little bit, kind of slowing things down up there. So I think we'll use that to our advantage, but we continue to augment Zone 2, Major Senzer's folks on either side of Cheshire Bridge and address issues as they come up on that end of the zone and the NPU. I'll be happy to take any questions, comments, concerns at this point.
Any questions for Zone 6? I do have a question, and I realize that this is out of both of your zones, but is there anything to report on the homicide at Piedmont Park?
I'll take that, Captain. At this point, yeah, there's nothing new to report other than what you're getting on the news regarding persons of interest. This is a very it's very concerning. We understand that. You know, anytime something happens in the park, I think we have, in any park, we have a tendency to kind of think that we have a serial murderer on the loose. So I think, you know, while this investigation is going on, we just have to let this play out. If APD has any pertinent facts that we feel, you know, would benefit public safety, that we would need to get out to the public, then our homicide unit would go ahead and disseminate that. And we're not going to hold anything back that that may be of value to, you know, citizens and people visiting the park. So right now, our guys are just working extremely hard, trying to follow up on every lead possible. You know, our federal partners are involved, and you know, we just have to wait, and hopefully this will come to a resolution quickly, and they'll identify the person, and we'll get them off the street. But nothing new to update you guys on right now.
Thank you.
Debbie, Stephen Ramsden had his hand up for a while.
Oh, thank you. Stephen?
Yes, I do. Sensor and Zenelage, Captain Zenelage and Major Rees, and not here. Thank you very much for your efforts. It is extremely frustrating to live on a block with one of these bars or strip clubs. And for the life of me, I can't understand how any board of licensing that works for the citizenry could possibly have not closed down both of these places. But I was going to say thank you, Captain Zenelage, for being very professional, responding quickly to emails, and sending your crew out here this weekend at Friends on Ponce and Ponce Place, which is quickly becoming just like Cheshire Bridge. And I appreciate you doing that. And thank you for the help. And I was wondering if the people that control signage, traffic signage, if any of those people are here from the city or Atlanta 311, if anybody is here representing them. But mostly, thank you for doing a thankless job, all of our APD folks, and I hope you continue to do so here. Not a thankless job, but continue to do a great job.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Major Reese appreciates it also. I will say this, I took a ride up there today, early afternoon, and took a walk around PDL Place, Maiden Lane, and all that. You have a lot of signage in place that's very applicable, that can be used by us to enforce what we need to enforce and get a message across, as far as traffic, illegal parking, you know, hanging out, loitering, that sort of thing. If there's noise going on, we can move those folks along. I understand that a lot of this happens when the clubs close down and everybody kind of pushes out into the sidewalks and the street. And what I did notice is during the day, the signs are visible, but in the evening, probably after dark, the foliage and the trees kind of conceal some of that stuff. So I asked our quality of life officer today to try to get somebody from the city come out and cut some of that brush back a little bit and clean it up a little bit, so that at night we have a little more teeth when it comes to going through and enforcing those types of things.
The officer that came out before told me that the no parking signs, this was a few months ago, that since the no parking signs were not pointed sideways down the street, but pointed perpendicular to the street, that he couldn't do anything about it, and that you know, they couldn't issue any tickets because he didn't know which side of the sign was no parking.
Okay. Feel free to email me and we'll talk about that, or give me a call. We'll talk about that particular officer. I'll go further and explain.
Well, I mainly wanted to publicly thank you for reaching out and helping us, because it is terrible here. Very bad.
Yeah, and we're gonna do our best, like I said.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yes.
Haley, yes.
Yes, hi. I actually live just a couple doors down from Stephen, and our house backs onto Maiden Lane, and I just actually put in a request today to have a lot of that foliage trimmed down, because it does block all of the signs. And really, just to piggyback on what Stephen just said, it is basically a nightmare here in the evenings, at night, and it's nonstop.
Thank you. Was that your comment, or did you have a question?
No, just make a comment to say that I actually spoke to someone at 311 today.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Is there anyone else that would like to ask a question? Or make a comment? I don't see any other hands raised. So Major and Captain, thank you again for all you're doing. Please stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. Is there anyone here from Atlanta Fire? Okay, I don't see anyone listed. Is there anyone that's here representing the city? I know that we've got Officer Gill from Code Enforcement. Did you want to speak?
Hello, this is Officer Gill. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so good evening. I'm Officer Gill here with Code Enforcement. I'm stepping in for Officer Wembley today. I don't have much information, but I do have some updates that some of you guys may already know about. So all the officers are back in the field, and we're catching up on our re-inspections from last year until now. Court is back open, so we're writing citations daily, back from last year to now, and we're still taking complaints and submitting cases. So if anyone have any concerns or questions, please contact 311 or contact Officer Wembley at 404-546-3868.
Okay.
And if anyone has any questions.
I have a question. There's a property on University that I understand that is headed to NREM. Can you tell us more about that?
I don't know about this property, but I can get your name and I can get the address of the property, and I can give it to Officer Wembley so she can reach back out to you, or you can give me a call when the meeting is over, and I can look it up for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want let me put my cell number inside the group.
Okay.
1 minute.
But
that'll be all for me today.
Okay. Any questions for Officer Gilden, Code Enforcement?
Debbie, I can't raise my hand, but do you address commercial properties as well as residential properties, Officer Gill?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So if there is a residential, or I should say a commercial property that's, grossly overgrown, abandoned, not boarded up, who do we call about that?
Zoning.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Zoning.
Zoning. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Officer Francis from the suite officer.
Good evening, everyone. Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is Officer Pete Francis. I'm actually sitting in tonight for Miss Ferguson, who is actually the suite officer for your NPU. Just two things I want to mention here. First, to advise the NPU that resident can now set out their yard trimming in plastic bag. This is actually a temporary measure because we are actually having some difficulty collecting, and we're affected severely by staff shortage. And as a result, your yard trimming is staying on the ground much longer than it should have. As a result of that, collection has also made some adjustment to their schedule, and they will now pick up yard trimming on a bi-weekly basis. I just want to let the NPU know that if there is any resident who want to drop off their yard trimming, they can do so at the Artfield Yard Trimming debris processing facility. That is on James Jackson Parkway, and they're open Monday to Friday from 7:30 to 4:30 p.m. I'll take any question that is available. Thank you.
Any questions for the suite officer? Public Works. Leah Rhodes?
Yes, thank you. We're in Linridge Martin Manor, and we were told that the yard pickup would happen today because the last time it was picked up was 2 weeks ago, and it has not happened yet. So did you say that we should be putting our yard waste in plastic bags for now?
Yes, you can do so, because what happened is that since we're taking so long to collect, when you have it out there in paper bag and with the rain falling, it disintegrates. So there is no penalty now for put it in your plastic bag.
Okay, and the fact that they did not come today when they were supposed to, I don't need to let anyone know that.
Well, actually, what happened is that they're collecting this week. This week, the 16th, is the week that they should collect. Do not rely on the schedule for garbage and recycle, because they actually will come. They're working late in the afternoon and they're working on some weekend. So in terms of the schedule, it may not be the same time as your garbage and your recycle is being collected.
Okay, that is helpful to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you put your yard waste in a plastic bag, should you identify it as yard waste, or is it just going to get picked up with the regular trash?
Okay, for the convenience of the collection crew, do not put your garbage and your yard waste in the same location, so to speak. What happened is that if it is in those black plastic bags, then the collection crew may mistaken it for your garbage. So ensure that it is conspicuous so that the crew can realize that it is garbage.
Okay, so garbage goes in the Kirby.
That's correct. And your yard trimming goes into a container if you properly label it. And now, as I said before, you can set out your yard trimming in plastic bags, temporary measures. And now that the point has been raised as to how to identify, I'm going to raise that one with collection, because I'm pretty sure that we're going to have some issue where a person is going to put the pile together and there may be some confusion.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's hard to mark a dark bag.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any other hands raised. Okay, is there anyone else? Thank you for being here, Officer Francis. Is there anyone else here from the city that would like to address the NPU tonight?
Yes, Ali Carter here. Just wanted to kind of reintroduce myself.
Ali, whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're representing an elected official, right?
I am Chief of Staff for Councilmember Andre Dickens.
Yep, you're in the wrong part of the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Hang on. Okay. Just want to make sure that if there's anyone else that works for the city in a city department.
Hi, this is Kendra Taylor. I think I may be on the agenda later. I'm stepping in for Chanel Zeisel to present on the zoning ordinances.
Yep, you're at towards the end of the agenda, Kendra. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, then we're going to go to comments from elected officials. And with us tonight is Cynthia Briscoe Brown from the Atlanta Board of Education.
Good evening, everybody. I am Cynthia Briscoe Brown. I am your at-large school board representative, and I'm happy to be here tonight. I want to bring you some updates now that we are back in classrooms. Yay. And let you know how that's gone. Our first day of school was August the 5th. So we've had a little over about a week and a half now. We are doing surveillance testing in every building every week, and that includes not only schools, but all of our administrative buildings as well. We are offering vaccines on site, and again, working through the entire APS, every APS property every week. We have a universal mask mandate, which starts when a student gets on the bus and ends at the end of the day. There are certain exceptions, obviously, for eating in the cafeteria or in the classroom and being outside. So our kids do get a break on the playground or during athletic activities. And we are requiring a daily digital health check of from all parents of students and all employees. That app has been really helpful in helping us identify symptoms and allowing parents to self-report so that we can follow up. As of this time, our positivity rate from our surveillance testing and from self-reporting from other areas is 0.8% system-wide. We do have some students in quarantine. We have a couple of classrooms in quarantine. We have strict protocols in place depending on whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. And so far, knock wood, that seems to be keeping our rate of infection way down. We certainly know that we're going to have cases of COVID. They happen in the community and they're going to happen in our schools, but we're doing everything we can to keep our kids, our employees, and all their families safe and healthy. In other news, on August the 9th, we approved a millage rate, which is tied to our budget. That millage rate is 20.74 mils. That's the same millage rate we've had since we lowered it 3 or 4 years ago. That millage rate allows us to provide for raises for every single staff member, which we actually started before the beginning of this fiscal year to reward and support our staff for the incredible work they did way beyond the call of duty for the past year and a half. We've instituted a minimum $15 an hour pay rate across the board. So every single APS employee is now making at least $15 an hour. We're investing heavily in mental health and emotional health supports for our kids and for our employees. Because we believe that is really the crisis resulting from the last year and a half. So we're investing heavily in social emotional learning, in counselors in every school, in social workers who can help our kids and our employees get back on track emotionally and mentally. And of course, we're investing in academic recovery. We've just instituted a K-12 universal screener, which allows us to assess where each child is and then design an academic program that will allow us to move them as far and as fast as we possibly can. Let's see what else I've got. We've got the other thing we are working on hard is implementation of our equity policy. As chair of the Policy Review Committee and chair of the Equity Task Force, I was the primary author of this policy, and we approved it see, it was spring of 2019, so it's been about 2 years. But our new superintendent, Dr. Herring, has put in place a chief equity officer and our new Center for Equity and Social Justice, which is helping us analyze every decision, every dollar, every program, every curriculum choice in light of equity. And for us, to put it in lay terms, equity means making sure that every child gets everything they need to be successful, understanding that every child's needs are different. So we are working very hard to implement that. Dr. Tauhida Baker-Jones, who is a Harvard PhD, is our new chief equity officer, and she is really helping us to bake this equity policy into everything we do. I think it's going to be a game changer for how Atlanta Public Schools operates. Finally, we have a SPLOST initiative. SPLOST, as you may know, is a special purpose local option sales tax. That's a 1 penny sales tax, which is dedicated towards facilities and technology. That comes up for renewal this November. Please educate yourselves on that because it's important. We have a facilities assessment that's helped us understand which buildings and which facilities need improvement the most. And of course, we have been pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into technology so that when we went virtual a year and a half ago, we were able to go completely one-to-one children and devices so that every single student could participate in virtual learning. We've done a refresh of those devices. We've also handed out some 38,000 devices last year. We've done a refresh of those for the new school year, and we've also handed out about 20,000 hotspots so that our kids, when they are at home or when we need to go virtual, are able to do that quickly and easily and not miss a beat on academic time. I'm happy to take questions. When I finish, I will put links to our COVID protocols in case you're interested in those, our COVID dashboard, which breaks down by school the incidences of exposure and of positive tests that we've had. And I'll also put my contact information in there. I'm always happy to hear from anybody and we'll do what I can to help you. So I'll take questions from anybody who may have them now.
If you have a question, please raise your hand or use *9 on your phone.
Debbie, I apologize, I can't unmute, but I do have a quick question. I heard yesterday that all of the cafeteria workers at Springdale Park Elementary walked out. Can you verify whether that's true or not, and what you know about the reason, if that is true, and what's being done about it?
I cannot verify whether that is true. Our food service is under contract with SFE, Southeastern Food Service Enterprises, and they are responsible for management of employees in our cafeterias. And I'm not allowed to meddle in contracts. I do know that that one of the real challenges we've had is in finding enough cafeteria workers to service our schools. And I am assured by the superintendent that SFE is working on that and that we are doing everything we can to encourage them to do so. As a corollary to that, let me say that unlike many districts, we are fully staffed in instructional staff. We have a fairly deep substitute pool. So as staff need to quarantine or whatever, we do have substitutes who will be able to step in. We have been particularly challenged with cafeteria workers who, as I said, are managed by a contractor. And we struggle always to find enough bus drivers. But in terms of instructional staff, we are fully staffed as of this moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't see any other hand raised, Cynthia.
Okay, I will put my contact information in the chat along with the links to those two, the COVID dashboard, in case you want to track your school. That's updated weekly, and it was updated today. It's updated every week. So the today's would be most up to date. And I'll also put the COVID protocols, which talk about our quarantining and about the mask mandate and the other matters.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come.
Thank you. Don't be a stranger. Stacy Evans or Olivia Buckner? I saw Olivia check in.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. My Wi-Fi has been a little funny, so I might just turn the video off if it becomes a problem. But I just have a small report, and it is that the census numbers have been released to our state government. And what will happen now is the Legislative Reapportionment Office will begin to comb through the data that they've received and start putting it in order based off of zip codes and precincts, and then submitting it to the reapportionment special committee that's in charge of redistricting and drawing maps. And so we'll get data very piecemeal. And as we get it, I'll share it with you, of course. But that's where we are right now. And I'm very excited about just the next step in the process is happening. But if you have any questions regarding that or anything else, please let me know.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Olivia? She is in the Office of State Representative Stacy Evans, for those of you that have not heard Olivia speak. And she's here every month. Okay, don't see any hands raised. Anyone else here that's an elected representative or is representing an elected representative? Allie.
I know how to wait my turn. I know how to wait my turn. I do apologize for jumping the gun. As I mentioned in the chat, I am the Chief of Staff for Councilmember Andre Dickens. I previously worked for Councilmember Dickens for about 6 years, up until 2019. I took a little break for about 1.5 years and came back about 2 months ago. Great to be back. Came back as his Chief of Staff. I was Director of Constituent Services prior, and some may remember, and those who called, I definitely take care of whatever issues you all may have, and please do so. I'll put my number in the chat and my email address, so please, I'm your public servant. I'm here for you, so please reach out to me if you need our services. There was a couple of things that Councilmember Dickens wanted me to mention. Today, he did table or voted to table the Public Safety Training Center until the next meeting. He did this so that the public could have more engagement and more discussion on the topic. This was also something that was recommended by the commissioners or a DeKalb commissioner. The center is not located in the city of Atlanta. It's actually in unincorporated DeKalb. So that was one thing that happened today in council. They're actually still in the council meeting at the moment. Also, he wanted me to mention that we are doing a series of safety talks at the senior centers here. We've done about maybe 5 or 6 so far. We have about maybe 4 or 5 more to go, where we're going to different senior centers in Atlanta, in the perimeter, within the perimeter, and bringing inspectors with us, along with officers from community policing and the zones, to speak to seniors about safety, see something, say something, what they've seen in their area, how they've been feeling, and just kind of a checkup on the seniors in the centers. That's about it. He also passed legislation today to look at safety measures around the senior centers and to engage those safety measures as they need be. And that's about it.
And those senior centers are actually Fulton County centers, aren't they?
Some of them are.
Oh, we have City of Atlanta senior centers?
Well, some are privately owned. They're not all owned by Fulton County.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions for Ollie Carter? Raise your hand or hit *9 on your phone.
Debbie, I have a question despite things not working.
Okay, thank you.
Ollie, a couple years ago, Council Member Dickens was the author of the legislation that stipulated a certain percentage of affordable housing on new building along the Beltline, and I think it was extended on the west side also. How successful has that been? Could you either give us an update or find out and come back next time and tell us?
Yes, I would love to find out more information. I know there's some things that have happened where he's kind of gone back, and I want to say there's legislation that's been added or something, but yes, I don't want to misspeak. So I would like to get more information on that and come back. I know that it has been a success, but there has been questions regarding once that time limit is up, a lot of these developments are going back to the regular prices. They're the discounts. They're not. I'm sorry.
I understand. Yeah, if you could just give us get some information, give us an update next month, would be very helpful.
I sure will.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Any other questions? Okay, you may have to call, no, Rich's hand is up. Wait a second. Aha, I got Rich's hand down. All right, we're making some progress today. I don't see any other hands raised, Ally, so thank you for being here. Any other representatives?
Wait, real quick, he also wanted me to mention that there was a study done with Georgia Power that identified 8,500 streetlights that were not installed, that were supposed to be installed, and so they've identified those, and they have agreed to work with the city of Atlanta in installing about 10,000 streetlights. Just wanted to mention that.
Wow. Okay, I'm sure there's an interesting story there.
Yeah, I heard somebody mention safety and streetlights, and that is very important. A lot of these are in the Southwest that will be erected, but I'm sure there's some in other areas, but the majority of them are in the Southwest. And safety lights and things of that nature do add to safety and crime and things of that nature. I think that they're all relative.
Okay, thank you. Great, thanks. Okay, then we're going to head on to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. I have posted it in the chat. It was posted to everyone maybe about 20 minutes ago. The consent agenda, for those that can see it, looks like this. The only items on it tonight are 4 special event applications. The first special event is the Atlanta Science Festival Explorations Expo. They have asked to defer their application. This event isn't going to take place to 2022, so deferring makes sense. The second is the AIDS Walk Atlanta and Music Festival. They have changed their attendance and site plan update, and are now expecting to be a Class E event with 2,000 participants. So the recommendation is to continue to support. The third event is Jesus and Justice. an event at Piedmont Park on September 25th. This is a gated event, Class E, 1,999 participants. There will also be an assembly, which is either a walk or run. And like all Class E events, we recommend support. And then the last item is the Atlanta World Kite Festival and Expo in Piedmont Park in the Meadow on October 30th, 2021. This is also a Class E event with 500 participants, and the recommendation is to support there. Is there anyone here who wants to have an application removed from the consent agenda so that it can be discussed in their regular place on the agenda? Okay, I don't see any hands and I don't hear any voices. Is there an applicant here who wants to have their application discussed at this meeting? Anyone here that wants to hear an application discussed?
I'm with Summerfest. Would like to,
Yeah,
am I early on that?
you are a little bit later on the agenda, not much later, but just a little bit later on the agenda, and we've got you down, Rob. And the last item is there anyone here who is in opposition to any of these recommendations? Okay, I don't see anyone. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? And as a reminder, the consent agenda must be adopted unanimously. So if you're opposed to any of these applications, please say something so we can pull it off. Otherwise, we will have to hear all of the cases. So
Stephen Ramsden, motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Stephen makes the motion. And Kay seconds it. Okay, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please raise your hand by using reaction button or at the bottom of the screen. Okay, the number's still going up. Okay, I think it stopped at 20. Oh, 21. Okay, you'll have to lower your hands now. If you go back to reactions, it says lower hand. So just go ahead and do that. We need to get back down to 0. And it looked like someone applauded. Keeps things interesting. Bruce Gunner, can you, oh wait, I can lower you. Okay, good. Okay, everybody's down. All right. All righty. Is anyone opposed to approving the consent agenda? Please raise your hand. Okay, I don't see anyone opposed. Any abstentions? The motion carries. The consent agenda has been adopted. If you are here for Jesus and Justice or the Atlanta World Kite Festival, you are more than welcome to stay, but we will not be discussing your case, your applications any further. So you're free to go. Thank you.
Debbie, could you recount the vote tally again for the record, please?
Oh, yes, 21 in favor, no opposed, no abstentions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have planners report. Doug, you're up. You have to unmute.
I will unmute first, then I will pull up my notes.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Doug Young with the City of Atlanta's Planning Department. I manage the city's historic preservation programs in my day job. I'm here tonight as your representative from the Planning Department as your NPU F planner. I do have a couple of quick announcements from our department. Number one is a revised draft of the 2021 Comprehensive Development Plan, also known as the CDP. It can be found online or viewed at a local library, community recreation center. You can go to the City of Atlanta CDP website for the specific locations and welcoming comments through August 27th. I will post in the chat the link to that CDP website so you can get that information exactly. You don't have to try to write down if I say at the web address. Another course is being offered for the NPU University. This one is called Elections Integrity Clinic. It's on September 9th at 6 o'clock for the neighborhood and neighborhood nominating committees, as well as anyone interested in learning about best practices for conducting officer elections. I'll put the link for that in the chat as well. And then lastly, the Urban Enterprise Zone provides a property tax abatement for business owners, creating jobs, affordable housing, and other community benefits to target areas in the city. There's been recent changes created by the State of Georgia General Assembly. And the City of Atlanta will be preparing legislation to affect those changes. You can go to uez at atlanta.ga.gov or go to that email address to get more information about the city's UEZ plans and changes. As I mentioned, I'll put all this information in the chat as well as my name, number, and contact email. If folks have further questions about the City of Planning Department's operations or the Office of Design where I work, please let me know.
Any questions for Doug? And as a reminder, we are able to save what's in the chat, so you don't have to copy it all down. To do that, there are 3 dots at the bottom of the chat window where you would, along the same area where you would type a message. If you click on those 3 dots, there's a drop-down box, and the first item on the list is to save the chat. And you can do that once, and it will save the information on your device directly. And it should save with everything from the entire meeting. You don't have to repeatedly save it. Okay, thanks, Doug. Let's see, okay. Let's do some quick neighborhood and committee reports. Lindridge Martin Manor, anything to report?
No report.
Okay. Piedmont Heights.
Hey, can you hear me? I'm Debbie.
Yes, I can, Bill. Go ahead.
Piedmont Heights, just really a couple things to report. For those of you that may have noticed, the in-town suites building off of Piedmont Circle has finally been demolished, and they're working on the final cleanup over there. So thank you to the NPU and all the work you helped to help us push that forward. As well as the Heritage Prep School, which is now residing in the old Rock Springs Presbyterian School, has now opened their Rock Spring campus and are now having their first year of high school, which we're very happy to report as well. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Morningside Lennox Park, anything to report?
Well, we are just hoping that nothing else catches on fire along Cheshire Bridge, but we'd like to encourage everyone to patronize the restaurants and businesses along that street, because many of them have been serving our communities for decades, and they've been through a lot over there. We're also excited for our last summer movie series in Sunken Garden Park at the end of this month, and we hope that our upcoming fall concert series will be just as successful.
Okay, and the movie for the next movie
is will be Toy Story.
Toy Story,
an all-time family favorite.
Is that Toy Story 1?
Yeah, I think we're just going to go with the original.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Great, thanks. Virginia Highland, anything to report?
No report.
Okay. Edmund Park. Emory, the CDC area.
Hey, Debbie, no update from us.
Okay. In Druid Hills. Anything to report? I think Van is on.
I am, no report.
Okay. Parks, Trees, and Environment, Rich Sussman.
With all this rain we've had, you don't have to go out and water your garden. Your water bill should be down a little bit this year.
No kidding. And public safety, anything else to add? Let's see, Jim on the call. Okay. I do have a chair report. Some quick items. I've mentioned this earlier, but I wanted to remind those that join the meeting later. The NPU F Zoning Committee will meet next Monday, August 23rd at 7 p.m. via Zoom to review the rezoning application of Emory University for property at the Haygood Triangle, North Decatur Road. The meeting is open to everyone. The link is on the consent agenda. This application will be on the September NPU F agenda. Also at the meeting, we will discuss any proposed changes to the bylaws or policy sheet. Second item, a temporary alcohol license has been issued for the Octopus Atlanta restaurant, which is now in the former Hobnob location at the corner of Monroe and Piedmont. A copy of the license was sent to neighbor presidents today when I received it. And this is a new practice from the city. They are now sending to us the copies of temporary alcohol licenses, which they should have been doing all along. News from the ZRB and the BZA. We did have a number of cases at both in the last couple of weeks. The first is that the ZRB approved the Lindbergh rezoning application. That is something that this NPU in the Lindrich Martin Manor neighborhood has opposed. If you want to express a concern about the that application, I suggest that you email the council member Ide and Council Member Westmoreland to express your concerns, or any other council member that you might be aware of. That's the last resort for killing that application. Also, good news, the ZRB opposed the special use permit at the Mix, which is a bar that is at Ansley Square and overlooks the Beltline in the Ansley neighborhood. That also will go to City Council for final resolution. There were two applications at the BZA. One was on East Morningside that you may remember from last month. It was a variance application for a porch that had already been built without a building permit. The BZA did reject that application. And the second was a variance application in the Virginia Highland neighborhood on Park Drive. And despite some very good arguments, the BZA did approve the application. Next, the grand bargain. Those of you that have attended NPU meetings are familiar with that. It still has not gone away. I participated in a call initiated by Councilmember Nadalyn Archibong on Friday and attended by representatives from NPU E and NPU B in the Old Fourth Ward. Denton's, which is the attorney for the project, is still trying to get to yes on the project. Commissioner Tim Keene was also at the meeting, and he said that the city's only interest was to have some signs removed on 14th Street, and they don't have any vested interest in any other parts of the grand bargain scheme. Planning apparently has issued an unfavorable staff report, although it was never published. I think that's one of the reasons why Denton's is trying to get to yes. Given that NPUF only benefits from the proposal and our position that we would oppose unless the other NPUs support it, I'm not going to attend any more additional meetings since I don't think that I can be any value added. The last ZRB hearing, this application was deferred for another 30 days. This is like a bad Halloween movie. Let's see, NPUF is going to continue to meet virtually through the end of the year. Our attendance seems to be higher than usual and our meetings are much more efficient. So don't want to give up a good thing. APAB, the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, meets on Saturday. 2 important items are on the agenda and a presentation on the CDP will be given. That is the main presentation for the meeting. This will be the only time that planning will be available to NPU leaders before the public comment period closes on August 27th. Also, a special APAB meeting will be held either following the meeting or on August 30th. We haven't nailed down the date, but these are to hear and discuss the Center for Civic Innovation's NPU initiative recommendations. These recommendations will be presented to City Council in mid-September. And so we want to make sure that the NPUs have first pass on them. I will be in an advisory board meeting tomorrow to get a preview of them. All these meetings are open to the public, and if you're interested in attending an APAB meeting, shoot me a message in chat and I will get you a link to the meetings. There are 2 NPUF committee chair openings, the zoning committee and education chair. If you're interested, please let me know. And finally, NPUF election of officers will be held in November per our bylaws and city ordinance. As always, we're looking for leads and co-leads for our committee, especially public safety, alcohol licensing, zoning, parks, and education. If you're currently in one of these roles in your neighborhood, you might want to consider taking on the NPU chairmanship. It's an opportunity to get a citywide perspective on the issues and also will give you an opportunity to develop contacts and a network. Any questions on that report? Okay, seeing none. Let's go to matters for voting. The first is a special event. The Virginia Highlands Summerfest. Rob Frazier.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I wanted to present that I'm the operational person for Summerfest, and this year we've decided to move and twist and turn with COVID, and we moved it to September, but we've decided to shrink it down from what we originally have done in June. The uptick in cases and the level of support we have from sponsors this year made it where it seemed a little bit didn't seem like a good idea to make it the full-blown festival. So that's what we want to do, and we just wanted to get the neighborhood support on that and see if there's any questions about it.
Can you tell us how you're scaling it down?
Sure. First of all, we are planning to have the road race. That will continue the Saturday morning. We plan on not closing Virginia Avenue at all. We will close only Barnett from Virginia Avenue to Virginia Circle, and our Arcadia from Virginia to Virginia Circle, and then encompass the festival in the park itself with some tents on Barnett and a kids area on Arcadia. There'll be a smaller stage in the park, some artist booths in the park, a couple of beer tents in the park, and seating. There'll be a Friday night dinner for the neighborhood. That will be a ticketed portion of it, and that is the extent of it.
So no music this year?
No, there will be a small stage. It's just going to be the size stage that we normally have at North Highland and Virginia in the business district. It'll be that size stage with that type of entertainment. So not quite as loud, but I think a nice atmosphere. We'll have tables and chairs, umbrellas in the park. So in the end, I think it's going to be a really, really nice event, just not as large.
And are you looking for volunteers?
Definitely looking for volunteers, always looking for volunteers. I can't tell you the exact way to do that. I imagine through the BAHI link on there is probably on the website, or Kay can speak to it.
It's on sign up, which is what we have used the last several years. And if you look on the Facebook page, there is a link both to sign up as a volunteer. And of course, you can go to active.com to sign up for the race. We would love to have a good turnout for the race. I know a lot of you have been missing doing your 5Ks, so we hope you'll turn out for that. And the one other thing, Rob, there are going to be lawn games, right?
Yes, correct. I think we've gotten those donated by the Conservancy, and we're going to have those set out in the park. So there's other activities. I think we'll have an expanded kids area to fill that area up nicely. So it's going to be a really come out, spend the day with the family, bring the whole family out, and there'll be something for everybody kind of vibe. Nice music, nice art, just in a condensed area.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Rob or Kay? Please raise your hand or, okay, I don't see any. Is there a motion?
I move to support.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Rich. Okay, we're gonna try this raise your hand thing. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, I see 20 in favor. Please lower your hand.
And could I just remind those of you who are voting that do not have a V in front of your name, please get me a verification of your residency so we can count those votes.
Okay. There's a few more people with their hand raised. I can take. Okay, this is taking longer. Okay, all those opposed to supporting Virginia Highlands Summerfest, please raise your hand. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. And any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries by a vote of 20 in favor, 0 opposed, and 0 abstentions. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Okay, and I don't think we mentioned the date. It's September 24th through 26th.
Correct. Yes. Thank you.
On Howell Park. Okay. There is one alcohol license on the agenda, Spice House. It's really not on the agenda because the city put the wrong address, property address for this application, and it doesn't belong to us. So no action needs to be taken. But while we are in the alcohol license application space, Jane, did you want to spend some time? Do you have an alcohol license report?
I just wanted to follow up with a report regarding the due cause hearing against Girls Galore LLC doing business as Club Allure, and Major Sinzer alluded to it, but I wanted to provide just a couple of more details given the egregious nature of the charge. They were brought, due cause was brought forth against them for a failure to supervise that involved a shooting inside the club on September 19th, 2020. And it was heard before the LRB at its August 10th meeting. I included a link in the chat if anybody would like to watch the over hour and a half long session. But I thought the city did a very good job. The attorney for APD did a very good job of presenting the case. Included were witness testimony from 2 APD officers, the bouncer, the manager, body cam footage. And it was seemingly pretty clear what happened. There was a dispute between a person filming the performers and security who asked them to stop doing that. And the person who was being asked to stop allegedly fired a shot, and it hit another patron who was not even involved in the dispute. And when he realized he had been shot, he was taken to Grady, survived the wounds. But the LRB seemed to get hung up on whether or not the shooting occurred inside the club, despite all of this witness testimony, and then also seemed to get bogged down a little bit into should this be looked at as a first offense or a second offense, which, as the attorney tried to explain, is irrelevant in this case. They're charged with finding them guilty or not, and then they can discuss the penalty fees as part of phase 2. So as of now, I have reached out to Councilmember Ide's office to see what we can do to perhaps appeal the decision to the level of the mayor. I don't have an answer back yet from Councilmember Ide, but she was going to talk to the law department to see what our options were. This is the second due cause within the past couple of years. They actually had a revocation of their license several years back. And in a lawsuit with the city and a subsequent settlement, were able to gain it back. So there's a long, long, long history at this location. There have been multiple club names, multiple audiences at the venue. But the one thing that has remained consistent throughout all of this is the agent, Nicholas Sturgeon. And it doesn't seem that things are changing. So a little bit frustrating that the LRB, I was just hoping for a different outcome from the LRB, more support for APD's work and more support for the community's work. And we will keep working to see that we can get that on future cases. And if anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer them. Or if you want to email or call later offline, I'll be happy to discuss further.
Okay, and I have a question, Stephen Ramsey.
Go ahead, Steve.
Were you at all involved in the similar outcome for the Friends on Ponce License Review Board hearing where they were found to be a perfect neighbor and crystal clear on everything, even though they abused the, you know the whole story there. Did you have anything to do with that or know about that?
Sorry, I was not at that hearing, no. How long ago are you talking?
Major Reeves discussed it on the last NPU meeting, so it must have been 2 months ago.
I was not in attendance at that.
Well, he was a little frustrated. You could hear it in his voice as well, that, they showed all this evidence of crazy, and somebody had gotten stabbed there like the week before the review board. And, they just, whatever, it's fine. So what's the problem up there and what do we need to do to fix it? Because clearly it's not working in the citizens' best interest.
What's the problem with the LRB?
Yeah. And how do we fix it?
Where to begin? I will say it's a known problem. I think it's fair to say that multiple areas of the city accept the fact that it's a known problem. It's not something isolated to just our NPU or our portion of the city. And there is work underway by an organization called CLEAR to examine LRB operations and try to codify them, and looking at other cities and other cities' codes to compare structures of how they handle violators. And then we plan to move forward in making those recommendations to elected officials.
Jane, do you know how people are appointed or elected or selected to the LRB?
I know APEP gets one appointment, and the remainder, is my understanding, is mayor. Debbie, am I wrong on that, or?
I think council may have some appointments, but I don't know.
Our district council member has not made an appointment to my knowledge. Doesn't mean other council members haven't, but just
some of
Chair,
the.
I have a point of order, Madam Chair.
Jack White, hello. Yes, ma'am.
That's certainly an important and relevant discussion. Unfortunately, it's not on our agenda. We could spend hours on it. I certainly urge those who are concerned about that or the way the BCA is composed to get together on their own, not with an audience of 50 other folks who are waiting to do other business, and take up that issue. It's really important. So I second the concern. This is not the forum. I ask that we return to the agenda.
Well, I disagree with that because the talk is about the licensing review board and the agent we have on our NPU that gives reports.
Welcome to disagree. I ask, Madam Chair, ask that we return to the agenda.
Thank you, Jack. I'm just going to give Jane a few seconds to wrap up.
that's really it. I just wanted to report back on due cause. It's exceedingly rare that that type of thing happens. So I felt an obligation to report back to the community on that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is BZA applications. The first is V21-162, 564 Rock Springs Road. The applicant seeks a variance from the zoning regulation to 1, reduce required west side yard setback from 7 feet to 2 feet 2 inches, and 2, reduce the required east side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet 7 inches in order to construct an addition to an existing single family residence. Is the applicant present?
Yes, I'm JR. I'm representative of the property owners.
Okay, great. So the way that we handle BZA cases is we ask the applicant to spend just a couple minutes explaining what their application is requesting. I will then ask the neighborhood for their review of the application and recommendation. A motion will be made, and I will open it up for discussion and any questions for the applicant once we get a motion on the floor. So JR, go on.
All right. Would it help if I pull plans up or present, or do you guys have access to that? Or
yeah, you can share your screen if you think it'll be helpful, but it's not necessary to
Summary is fine, sir.
pull it up. All right, can you guys see that? All right, I'm JR. I'm with Level Team Contracting. I'm representing Allison and Spike Short, who have lived at this address a while and decided, growing family time, to expand. We came up with a renovation plan on this house and putting a second story on, adding about 9 feet across the back, and then a covered parking spot on the west side of Port Cochet. The plans, don't impact any trees. It's going up, the encroachment on the east side is kind of following the existing footprint of the house. We're just going back an additional 9 feet. The Port Cochet, due to the Piedmont Heights actually had some comments. I think this plan here shows a 2 foot 2.5, and we have actually done a revision and submitted it to our plan reviewer at the BZA for 3 feet. That was per comments from Piedmont Heights, and they We're in support of it at 3 feet. Atlanta has been a little slow getting back to me. I actually got confirmation email about an hour before this Zoom started that they had it, and she said the email could serve as confirmation if you guys needed it, but I don't actually have the stamped reviewed plan. It's pretty similar to what we have here on my screen. The only difference is we shrunk this to where we have a 3 foot in the clear. That was kind of a request just so we have room to service it without needing access on the neighbor's drive. Even though it's a driveway there, it was kind of for future neighbors or just to make things less complicated. The Shorts have gotten sign-offs from all their neighbors. I think there was one across the street that they weren't ever to get in touch with, so they did a certified mail for him, but everyone else has signed and there was no opposition. No trees are coming out. It's a aesthetically pleasing renovation, in my opinion. It's an old house that hasn't been renovated, so it should be a nice aesthetic boost for the neighborhood. And I will say they have one of the smallest lots on the street. This section of Rock Springs, most of the lots are significantly wider, and they're looking at a 50-foot front, and so they kind of have definitely some size restrictions on this lot.
Okay. Let me ask how Piedmont Heights voted. I think you're good.
Hi, Debbie, this is Bill Compton, president of the Piedmont Heights Civic Association. My apologies, Tim Bruby, who is our zoning chair, was not able to attend the meeting tonight. Following the modification to the site plan that increased the side setback on that side to 3 feet, our board voted unanimously to support the variance application.
Great, thank you. And is that your motion?
That is my motion.
Is there a second to Bill's
Second.
motion? Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any questions for the applicant or the neighborhood? Any questions? I don't see any hands raised. All righty. So the motion is to recommend approval of the proposed east side yard setback to 3 feet and a reduction of the the east side yard setback as requested, and a reduction of the west side yard setback to 3 feet. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. I see 17 in favor. Please lower your hand. Two more people. Got it. Okay, good. And all those opposed, please raise your hand. I'm not seeing any hands raised. Anyone abstaining? Please raise your hand. No hands raised. By a vote of 17 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions, the motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, the next application is V21-170. This is 1732 Meadowdale Avenue Northeast. The applicant seeks a variance to reduce the north side yard setback from 7 feet to 2 feet for an addition to an existing single-family dwelling. Is the applicant present or the homeowner?
Hey, Debbie, it's Rebecca. I'm not sure if, I know Pam was out of town this week, so I don't know if the homeowners could attend or not. But I can present for Pam if that's okay.
Actually, it's not. The bylaws don't allow you to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if the homeowners are on. I have not seen them.
Is it the Donagals? Are they the ones?
Yes, Donagals, yeah. Yeah, I know Pam was out of town for the last week of this week, so.
They sent me an email this morning or sometime today saying that they were going to be here.
Why don't we hold on and see if they show up? Maybe Rebecca can try to
Let
contact
me
them.
shoot them a message now and see if they can get on.
Okay,
right
great.
away.
Great. Then we'll move on to the next application, V21-171. This is 1066 Maryland Avenue Northeast. Applicant seeks one, a variance to reduce the half depth front yard setback from 17.5 feet to 0 feet for an addition to an existing single-family dwelling, and two, a special exception to increase the height of a retaining wall within the required half-depth front yard from 3 feet to 5 feet 10 inches. Is the applicant present or the homeowner?
The homeowner is.
Great, thank you. Please introduce yourself and tell us about your project.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tom Sandman, and my wife and I are looking to excuse me?
Go ahead, sir.
I think that's Rebecca. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Yes, so my wife and I are looking to get a couple of cars off the street, and in the way we want to do that is our corner sits on a corner lot, and the side of the house faces Los Angeles Avenue, and it's a street level basement, unfinished, and we can convert that to a garage with a little push out of the side of the house where the garage would be, to deal with some structural challenges in the foundation in the basement. So that's the principal variance is to allow us to have that little push out. I see you had mentioned the retaining wall. The retaining wall already is that height, and it's my understanding it's necessary really for the structure of the foundation. So that's why that variance is there, as I understand it. What else?
Okay.
We're also going to do an attic conversion, but it really doesn't. I think it doesn't create any variance aspects.
Okay. Let me ask the Virginia Highland Planning Committee, what are your recommendations?
I'm going to make a motion to approve in a second, but to summarize, it sounds much like more formidable than it is. In fact, more accurately stated, the premise is that it's effectively zero right now. There's a packed gravel walkway that extends off the very narrow distance from the pre-existing side of Los Angeles on the half-depth front yard to the house. So in fact, they're formalizing that and tucking the garage under a pre-existing basement without making any substantive changes other than this retaining wall partly is there to accommodate the cone of visibility that the code requires for vehicles emerging from a garage, both for pedestrians and the driver. So the board and Virginia Highland unanimously recommended approval. No trees are being lost. And I will additionally note that to our surprise, we learned of an additional compelling change in the code that requires when new space is being added, even though the footprint is not being changed, and in the attic, as these folks are doing, they have to add new stormwater capacity. I'm surprised even us stormwater fans. However, they're going to have to. So we'll be better off in a stormwater point of view. There's effectively none there now, and there'll be a substantial amount when they're finished. So we recommend approval, and that is my motion.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Rebecca. Just for clarity, is the retention wall just being extended?
Mr. Sandman, if I may, if you want to answer, but I think it's being modified to accommodate the garage structure and to being rebuilt at an angle in a way that ensures the aforementioned visibility in compliance with the code. So it's not going to change any experience. There's no sidewalk there now or along that whole section, nor any room for one without tearing the house down, which
No,
has been there for decades.
I understood that. I just was unclear on whether or not it was something that was going to be modified or totally rebuilt, but that sort of answers my question. Any other questions for the applicant? I don't see any. All those in that the motion is to recommend approval of the variance to reduce the half front yard setback to 0 feet and a special exception to increase the height of a retaining wall. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, I see 18 in favor. Whoops, that number just jumped to 19. All those, please lower your hand. Okay, you guys are getting good at this. All those opposed to the motion to recommend approval, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. And any abstentions? Seeing none. By a vote of 19 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions, the motion carries. Okay, Rebecca, what did you find out about the metal?
I called them and emailed them and I have not heard back, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
Okay, well then we'll keep clicking. The next item on the agenda, we have 2 alcohol licenses for review and comment. One is located in Ponce City Market. This is the Atrium restaurant, and the second is Capella Cheese, which is located in the Armour Otley area in NPU E. As you all know, Ponce City Market is an NPU M, but we are 300 feet from both of these locations. Does anyone have any comments about either one of these licenses or concerns? Okay, I will report no comments. Okay. Next item is a text amendment. This is Z2174. Kendra, are you still with us?
Hi, yes, I am.
Thank you. This is where you would do your presentation.
Okay, how long would you like me to take?
Well, how long do you need?
I can kind of vary it based on, you know, the audience's preferences.
So let's shoot for 10 minutes, and if you need more time, we'll go from there.
Okay, that's great. I'm going to share my screen.
Great.
So I'm going to be talking about 3 different ordinances today, and want to just give you a little bit of background about how we come up with these different zoning ordinances. They really emerge from the city's long-term framework that guides our growth and development, which is Atlanta City Design. And then these kind of broad frameworks are developed into specific ordinances, like the ones I'm going to be talking about this evening. I just want to highlight some key timelines. The Atlanta City design was adopted into the city's charter in 2017. And we're now in July 2021, where these 3 zoning ordinances are being discussed with the NPUs. And we're also right now underway with the current comprehensive development plan. So kind of underpinning the work we're doing right now and the efforts of these different changes to zoning is to address that the population in Atlanta is growing and the housing supply needs to meet the population's demand. Here's just a chart that shows the change in population. And actually, the last time the zoning ordinance was updated was in 1982, which you can see was a period of population decline rather than population growth like we're experiencing now. In the city of Atlanta, we have kind of a bifurcated market where you have a lot of single family homes and you have a lot of structures with over 50 units, but we're seeing fewer and fewer kind of missing middle type housing structures with small numbers of units, like 2 to 4 units. So that's something that's addressed in these ordinances. These ordinances also are an approach to adding settle density. So we try and cater solutions to fit Atlanta's unique development patterns and create lots of different housing options for residents. But we want to also note that the ordinance we're talking about today are part of kind of a larger strategy for affordable housing that includes other policies like inclusionary zoning, other incentive programs like urban enterprise zones, as well as things like a housing bond. So the 3 ordinances that we want to inform you all about today are first, the affordable housing near transit. And the goal of this is to add settled density near transportation hubs. So this applies to R4 and R5 parcels within half-mile walk sheds of MARTA stations. Next is removing residential parking minimums. And the goal of this is to unbundle housing and parking costs. And the third is create more flexible accessory dwelling unit or ADU options. So I'm going to go through those in a little bit more detail. So the first one, affordable housing near transit with density bonus. So what it would do is would change the existing MRMU zoning. So it would downsize the existing 4 to 12 units to 1 to 4 units, but it would also give additional density bonus options if developers provided affordable units in those developments. And this is a geographic based zoning change. So you can see in this map, parcels are highlighted, which are in the walk sheds near MARTA stations. So the idea here is to increase density gently near transportation. So there would be proactive rezoning of R4, R4A, and R5 within those half-mile walk sheds in MARTA. So the second zoning amendment is removing residential parking minimums. And what this would mean would be removing the minimum parking required in zoning districts in 1 and 2 family districts, multifamily districts, and mixed use districts. But it would maintain non-residential parking requirements And it would keep parking requirements in SPIs and other special districts. And it would also maintain existing maximum parking requirements. And finally, the third zoning amendment has to do with accessory dwelling units. Here's an example of an attached ADU on the right and a detached ADU on the left. This ordinance would allow ADUs to be attached to the main dwelling. It would also allow 0 lot line for sale ADUs. And it would allow only one ADU in R4, R4A and R4B. And it would allow 3 total units in R5. So for example, a duplex alongside an ADU, or a single family residence alongside 2 ADUs. And it would also increase detached ADU height from 20 feet to 24 feet to allow second floor over a garage. And finally, it would change ADU rear and side setback in R4, R4A, R4B to 4 feet, just like it is in R5. To see a lot of the research we put into coming up with these ordinances, you can check out Atlanta City Design Housing. And I'm happy to take questions and comments and bring them back to our office. But you can also reach out directly to Josh Humphreys, who's the director at the Office of Housing and Community Development. And here's his contact information. And I can leave that up on the screen and take any comments at this time.
Here, I have a question.
Sure.
Debbie, you have 2 people with their hands raised ahead of Jack.
I have to unmute. Okay, Leah. Leah Rhodes. Your hand is up first.
Hey, Constance Rhodes, same household, different spouse. So with respect to the parking or the lack of parking requirements, can you explain that again? Because I'm not capturing it. So what you're saying is you're not going to have a fixed number of parking spaces required for every housing for these units. And what is the option that you're going to provide? Because if you're also talking about putting these in densely located areas as well on main avenues, I'm not following where these people are going to park.
Right, so this gets rid of the City of Atlanta designating how many parking spots are required. It puts that more in the realm of the private market rather than regulations. So it doesn't prevent in any way from there being parking. It's just that we get out of the business of regulating parking in terms of a parking minimum. And we're doing that because we want to bring down the cost of housing, because parking is often carried on to the consumer. And also because research shows that the private market is actually better at producing the correct amount of parking as opposed to local governments. So that's kind of the rationale behind changing the policy.
I respect that goal. I just don't leave it in the hands of the developers to take any consideration to traffic patterns or cars that are being placed on the streets. Okay.
Thank you. I'll note that concern and bring it back to the office.
Thank you. John Throckmorton.
Yes, my question is about process. And I have looked at the Atlanta City Design, which preceded the draft 2 of the Comprehensive Development Plan. and now we're looking at zoning ordinances. I understood from the previous meeting that the comprehensive development plan was actually the guiding document from which ordinances were to flow. And as I look at the history of what's been done in the city, the Atlanta City Design is a somewhat new document that it's not clear to me what what it is supposed to be doing except influencing or describing aspirations in the city. So I'm wondering why we're looking at zoning ordinances when we haven't even recommended on the comprehensive development plan. Could you answer that for me, or am I coming at that from the wrong direction? I'm just really curious about that.
I want to give you a good answer to that question because I think that sounds important. So I will go back to the team and try and get that kind of framework fleshed out more. You can follow up with Josh if you caught the contact info. I can also put this PowerPoint out for you all to have his contact info, and I can put mine in the chat if you want to follow up with me. But I don't want to give you a rushed answer to that question. So can I follow up on that one?
Sure.
Okay.
I've got actually another question, if that's okay if I go ahead.
Go ahead.
The issue of the multi-residential, multi-unit or multi-use designation in MARTA areas, I think your slides are misleading. They all refer to MARTA, but the actual zoning ordinance is for high-capacity transit. And high-capacity transit, according to MARTA Atlanta, it involves more than just the existing rail. It involves future light rail and even high-capacity bus terminals. So I think your slides are somewhat misleading because we all are pretty familiar with where the current MARTA stations are, but in the next 5 to 10 years, there may be high-capacity transit locations in a whole new number of areas, which will then impact residents. So I think something has to be done to kind of help people understand where this might happen versus just saying that it's MARTA.
Okay, noted. I'll take that back to the team and we'll discuss. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Rich Sussman?
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions and concerns. I think Mr. Throckmorton was correct. I think the process is sort of backwards on this. I would think that the comprehensive development plan would spur ordinances like this. So I think it's a little premature to come up with these ordinances where we have a comprehensive development plan that would follow this. I think the order is wrong. I would second those comments. Another thing that concerns me is with the addition, I think the city does need additional housing, yes. But I also think the city has a goal of reaching 50% tree canopy. And I think there's this, the plan as it's stated now would have a very detrimental effect on the city reaching that. You know, the city of Atlanta is unique amongst cities in the United States for the amount of shade it has, and with global global warming happening. I think the more we can do, not putting additional concrete in our city would be helpful, and doing everything we can to reach that 50% tree canopy. Another thing that concerns me also is if you have additional higher density housing, I think you need the infrastructure to support that. A case along Lindbergh Drive, if those houses were converted to additional higher density housing without additional ways for people getting around, I think the traffic in a number of that area and a number of other areas, particularly in NPU F and other parts of the city, the traffic would just be terrible. I mean, it's terrible right now. During COVID, we have a reprieve. But I think the city has to look long and hard about providing the infrastructure, either from a regional standpoint, from a city standpoint, before it increases density.
Thank you. I have those all noted.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Rebecca.
Yeah, I have actually a few questions too. Could you go back to the slide where you talked about the compatibility requirements for neighborhood character, to preserve neighborhood character?
Is it ADUs?
I saw there was something about compatibility requirements on here.
I think that's the ADUs.
Was that for ADUs?
Oh, no, sorry. It's the MRMU rezoning.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
MRME. Okay, never mind. Okay, that wasn't actually relevant to this question then. So I had really a concern about the 50% of the main structure is a blanketed size. I think with some of these very large houses that are right now on these smaller lots, I think that's a very large structure that could be built. It could really affect, I mean, the neighbors, and it just seems like it could become really a problem for any surrounding neighbors, as well as this no parking requirements with the parking. I mean, the streets are going to become overcrowded with cars if a developer decides to buy up several houses on a street and build, you know, as much as they can with the ADUs or you know, it would, with no parking requirements. I just think it could totally change the character of the neighborhood. So that's my concern with this. And it seems like right now the city is not doing much of anything to enforce any zoning violations or any of the city ordinances. And so homeowners have very little protection right now. People can pretty much build whatever they want, and the city is not going to enforce anything if it's not permitted. So how is this going to help us? I mean, how is this going to make this any better? I can only see this getting worse if the restrictions are much more lax. You know, if this is passed, I cannot see much of any enforcement, or even, I mean, I don't know if it's possible to have less enforcement because we don't have any, but I just don't see how the city seems to be trying to remove themselves of responsibility for protecting homeowners' property rights or expected property rights based on the ordinances.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, Bruce Gunner.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm Bruce Gunter, and my hand is still up, I notice. I'm coming at this issue as an affordable housing developer. I've done it for 35 years in the city, maybe over 4,000 units with a former nonprofit and all kind of affordable housing. And so for me, it really is just about increasing housing supply. You'll notice there's no requirement to restrict any additional units, be they ADUs or whatnot, as affordable, except for the units around MARTA. So this is really using a market mechanism to create more affordable housing. The current system that we have, which is really go and get subsidy from multiple layers of government, is just losing ground every year. It's just totally inadequate. It's very inefficient. And so this is a market mechanism to create affordable housing. That's the first thing. The second thing that, and Kendra sort of skipped over it pretty quickly, you may have noticed there was a book there. Richard Rohr wrote The Color of Law. Some of you may have heard about it. I think this is a profoundly important reason to visit this issue. If you study the history of zoning, not just in Atlanta, but particularly in Atlanta, you can go back to the 1929 zoning ordinance, which is redlining. And then there's a lot of history around federal intervention in terms of deciding what areas were safe and what areas were not safe. And lo and behold, in 1929, no surprise to anybody, the areas that were deemed unsafe, that is, were redlined, were black. And that 1929 is a long time ago. And by the way, that's the manifestation of Jim Crow. But these impacts were embedded in our zoning laws. And really zoning is really has been used to discriminate, not to, keep people out, not to allow people in. And so if you fast forward to now, you can see that the areas that are impoverished, disinvested today correlate very closely to those ones back in 1929. So we're still living with the negative impacts of very discriminatory laws, zoning codes back then. And so those are the two very, very large reasons I think that we need to consider this. This is really about affordable housing. I know there's concerns about tree canopy. Clearly, we understand that. There's
Mr. Gunner.
concerns about infrastructure, sort of a chicken and the egg, but I hope that this can go forward.
Thank you for your comments. Jack, your hand was up and I don't see it up anymore.
Was up. I don't know why it's not, but it was.
Okay.
I didn't take it down. I was actually gonna, and Mr. Gunner took one comment away. I thought the first or second slide that Kendra showed had, in my opinion, one of the more important pieces. She argues, and I think it's been widely substantiated both by the book that Bruce mentioned and by this one, Race, The Shaping of 20th Century Atlanta, and others, that the housing discrimination was not just an incidental result of other intentions, actually quite conscious, extraordinarily so. Our NPU founder, when Lola and I interviewed him for our book about the history of Virginia Highland, was very forthright about it. When he arrived in Atlanta and was in the late 60s, they found tons of charts still applicable that clearly showed, quote, Negro areas that were still official documents of the city. He got rid of a lot of them, to his credit. Secondly, I heard Rich's point, but I'm sorry, I don't think that's a viable argument. Transit follows demand. First, we need the demand, then we'll get the transit if we're lucky. We may not, we may have to keep fighting, Rich, you're right about that. And the tension about the trees is just something that's always going to be with us. In fact, I am encouraged by the creation of the stormwater ordinance, which we talk about occasionally, and by the subsequent development of the private market for stormwater devices. There's really no excuse left anymore for dumping stormwater off your property other than you didn't try very hard or you designed very poorly. It can be done. So we can control a lot of those impacts. We can plant trees. We can do a lot of things here and have more housing. The real question is, if you accept the first premise that this is a discriminatory, intentional, and at one time conscious policy that produced this, morally, that didn't mean that everything that the housing departments come up with, that planning's come up with, is right, but it starts me with the imperative that it needs to change. And I'll just end it with this. Our old planner, Aaron Fortner, who has guided us wisely so many times, had a hell of a time. He was preaching uphill, as he used to say, when he tried to convince us for a decade and a half, beginning in the late O's, that our neighborhood in Virginia Highland would be a healthier, happier, more prosperous, and safer neighborhood if we had more people living here. There would be kids out on the street, adults walking around, people bicycling, and to the degree that we can measure it since then, I think everything Aaron said is correct. So I hope we should do wise things here, and we can look at these things critically, but I hope we won't lose sight of the goal and not turn into the NIMBYs we used to make fun of 20 years ago.
Great, thanks, Jack. John Throckmorton, you've already spoken once. Do you have a brief comment?
No, I actually had a third question.
Okay.
And that relates to the comprehensive development plan. The last page of draft 2 is a listing of all of the NPU and neighborhood master plans, many of which, well, all of them, almost all of them have been incorporated or adopted by the city council. And most of them have been done since Atlanta City Design. So that's a comment. But the Morningside Lenox Park master plan on page, I think it's 118, talks about changing the ADU ordinance, but specifically says that no other aspects should be changed, including setbacks, lot coverage, that type of thing. Yet that seems to be a prominent part of these ordinances. And it leads me to wonder what's going on. Why are the local community efforts not being considered in this comprehensive development plan?
Thanks for that. I'll take that back and get an answer for you.
Thank you. And Kendra, I don't see any other hands up, but I do have a couple questions myself. One has to do with the setbacks for ADUs. And your slide said up 4 feet in the R4 district, which is the one that we're most concerned about here, for detached ADUs. Does that also include attached ADUs?
Sorry, one second, I'm just finishing writing a note from the last question. Okay, sorry. Can you restate that?
The 4-foot setback, which is a change in the third section for ADUs, for detached ADUs, does that apply to attached ADUs and also to the main structure?
Let me get back to you about that. I'm not sure. I don't want to give you the wrong information.
Okay. My next question has to do with the parking minimums. The rationale for the parking minimums being changed, and this is the theme that I see through all the documents that I've read, is the cost of parking in a residential area, which makes total sense. We've seen large apartment complexes where adding additional parking has been extremely expensive. So I can appreciate that. But I don't see the correlation with putting a driveway and a garage in a single family home.
Okay.
Can you all help with another reason why we should eliminate minimum parking? And to Rebecca's earlier point, on some of the smaller residential streets where if you've got parking on both sides of the street, you can't get a fire truck down the middle of it, and I live on one of those streets. How can that be addressed?
Okay. Okay, thanks. I'm noting these down. I'm going to send out a massive email with all of these questions.
Okay, I've got one more
tomorrow when I have a chance to circle back with everyone.
I do have one more question, Kendra.
Sure.
There are 3 distinct ordinances, but they're lumped under one ZRB application. What was the point of doing that? Why can't the NPUs consider each individual section independently?
I feel like I'm being very unhelpful this evening, but I'm going to take that back too, because I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay, so I know that there have been a number of NPUs, and APAB on Saturday is going to address the issue of having 3 separate ordinances in one ZRB application. And this is kind of a quirk, not from your department, but from the NPU support department. When an NPU votes for an application in 3 pieces, where say an NPU would support section 1 and section 2, but oppose for whatever reason section 3 or whatever configuration, that the NPU support will report all 3 of those as being support for the entire ordinance. And so APAB is going to be asking NPUs that if you're opposing any single portion of it, to oppose the entire ordinance. And we're only doing that to make sure that the it's clear on how NPUs and neighborhoods are viewing these applications. So if you could take that back as well, I'd appreciate it.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca, did you have any final comments?
Yeah, I did have one more comment. I mean, going back to what we were talking about with the gentleman who brought up the book about zoning, the ordinances of, I mean, the origination of zoning. Like, I don't think this is really going to help so much about the racial inequality or affordable housing so much. And I see a lot of the benefits to these changes only benefiting developers. I don't really see affordable housing being created in our neighborhood from an ADU unit being built. I think the way that they could actually create affordable housing within our neighborhood would be rezoning, not creating these changes to these ordinances that would allow a probably very expensive ADU to be built in a backyard. So that was my comment on that. That's all.
I would encourage everyone, if you haven't had a chance to look at Atlanta City Design Housing, there's a ton of research in that story map that goes into kind of what backs up why we're proposing these ordinances. So I think that's a great place to kind of explore the basis, the factual basis for these kind of ordinances.
Thank you. And Jack, you've got 30 seconds.
I'll be brief. Mr. Throckmorton, I think the reason that this is being presented in the way it is that, of course, this supersedes various different pieces of 25 different CDUs, comprehensive zoning changes that have been thought out at a high level by professional planners of necessity are going to take place unless they're accepted in a great many neighborhoods. The kind of revision that occurs between CDPs and even when it occurs at CDPs inside the NPUs is anything but comprehensive. We don't have the resources or the ability here to do that. Even 5 years ago, when we got some comments from the aforementioned Mr. Fortner, our plan was of perforce limited. And if you had been listening to those discussions, I think you would say that. Debbie, I just have one thought on this. I mean, if a fire truck can't get down the street now, I don't think a few more cars are going to matter. That's a problem that we need to think through, but I don't see the implications here. And I would really urge folks in every NPU that if they have a problem with a single part of this, go ahead and articulate it. City council can split this up and do what it wants with these ordinances when it gets in front of council. It would be, in my view, absurd, if I understood your point right, to say we agree with 90% of this, but there's one thing we don't agree with, so we're voting no to all of it. I wouldn't have guessed that it was possible for APAB to have any less effect with many cynical council members, but if it's possible, that might be the way to do it. Sorry. I'm pleased that APAB's trying to do better, but it does have a limited reputation for efficiency, one that you've been working on, I know, but I don't think this will help. So I hope you all will rethink that.
Thanks for your input.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Kendra, will you send us a copy of the feedback that you're forwarding on?
Yes, I will send it out tomorrow morning.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, and I do appreciate that you were here this evening. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, while we were talking about the Faroki legislation, I saw that the homeowner for
John.
1732 Meadowdale showed up. Is he still in the meeting?
Yes.
Yay, okay. Okay, so we're going to backtrack just a little bit. V21 170 1732 Meadowdale Avenue Northeast. Applicant seeks a variance to reduce the north side yard setback from 7 feet to 2 feet for an addition to an existing single-family dwelling. John, just in a minute or so, you don't have to spend a lot of time explaining your application. Please tell us what you're doing, and then I'll ask Rebecca for Morningside's review and their recommendation.
We're going to put a carport over a portion of the current driveway. It's basically, we're not, we're covering up paved surface with a roof-like structure and some poles on the side and some storage. And we are obviously adding roof surface, so we're managing the water. We have a plan to do that with a water garden that goes around the house and into the front.
Vacuum cleaner behind you. Rebecca? Thank you. Rebecca?
Yeah, sorry. Morningside voted to approve, and I'll make that my motion.
I'll second.
And are there any questions for the applicant?
I'll just note that for the record, that because this is a carport, this planning department's typical 3-foot minimum doesn't come into play here.
Right, thank you. And there's nothing going to be on top of the carport, right?
There'll be a roof, but there won't be anything.
Not a room that's going above it.
Rooms or building. No, we're not attaching to the house, and there's no room up there. No, it'll actually be very open air.
Talk to your neighbors.
We've talked to our neighbors. We have signed letters from the neighbor whose house is on the side that we're asking for the variance for, and then the neighbor across the street who will be looking at it, and it's an improvement of her view.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, any other questions? I don't see any. The motion is to recommend approval of V 21-170 to reduce the north side yard setback from 7 feet to 2 feet for an addition to an existing single-family dwelling. That addition is a carport. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And please mute your phone or your, thank you. You both. Okay, I see 16 ayes. Please lower your hand. Just when we got good at doing that, we're almost finished. Nays, please raise your hand. I don't see any hands raised, any abstentions? I don't see any hands raised. By a vote of 16 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions, the motion carries. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay, just wanted to draw your attention to the public notice. This is regarding the CDP. Kendra just mentioned it. It was mentioned in the comments. There is a link here to the CDP document. I recommend that you spend some time taking a look at it and providing feedback. There is a final public hearing on September 27th, but the comment period closes on August 27th. And at that time, a third draft and round of public comment will take place. So I just wanted to make sure that you all saw it. Any questions about the CDP? Comments? If you have trouble sleeping, it's a great document. Okay, and the last order of business is kind of an add-on bylaw changes. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, next month, we need to confirm our bylaws. I wanted to open the floor to see if anyone had any proposed changes to the bylaws that we should consider next month. Or to the policy statement that can also be reviewed next month as well. Gone.
Well, I mean, Ms. Chair, I propose that we look at some of them at next week's meeting, which was probably be a good time to do that. I have a couple, but I don't have them in front of me.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. And if you could send them to me before the meeting so that
I'll be glad to do that.
I can make sure that, we've got them in the format and old
Yes,
version.
ma'am. I will do that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is there any other business to come before the NPU tonight? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and Rich. Okay, all those is there any opposition to adjourning the meeting? We won't go through the hand raising things. Thank you. It's been a good meeting. This is a reasonable, semi-reasonable hour. And we'll see you all next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kendra, thanks for being here. Don't forget to save the chat if you're interested in some of the notations. Okay, and the Atlanta City Design Housing presentations also on there. I'm saving the chat.
I think it's just you and me, Debbie.
Hey, Kay. And Michael Pryor, and I'm not sure who that is.
Yeah, he was not registered. I noticed he kept trying to vote by raising his hand.
Oh, I wasn't even looking at the V's this time because
It wasn't going to make any difference,
that's what I figured it did.
which is why I put that language in just to set the expectation that,
Yeah,
we're not going to fuss about it.
yeah, people are pretty good.
Meeting is adjourned, Mr. Pryor. Good night.
So the big issue next month is going to be the Emory
Right.
graduate school housing. I went to the Druid Hills board meeting last week. The Druid Hills has done a really good job in public engagement. A really, really good job. They published, asked people for input on the project. David Payne's done a great job in engaging the community, making sure they understood what they were doing. They had a public meeting, and they actually had a couple public meetings with different groups. David's talked to the Druid Hills High School. He's he's talking to Jeff Rader, the commissioner, and to Jennifer Ide's office. So he's definitely done the legwork. The Druid Hills had a working group made up of their president, vice president, zoning committee chair, and a couple other people. And they took the feedback from the survey and came up with a list of issues and sent those issues back to David. David responded. There were certain things they could do, certain things that they would look into doing, but were willing to consider looking into it. There was one stumbling block, which is that the adjacent neighbors and lots of people in Druid Hills are concerned about the massing of the development. I think it's 5 stories on North Decatur.
Right.
And asked if they would reduce it down, I think to something 3 stories maybe. so that it's more consistent with the single family homes across the street and move that density back for the units. It's a no-go for Emory, but they are willing to take some wings off the front of that were kind of enclosing a courtyard and move those back. And
Okay.
Emory was willing to do that. One of the reasons why it was a no-go for them is that if they're shooting for 1,000 beds, and if they reduce the front building, move it to the back building, that their expenses go way up because they have to go to a different kind of scaffolding
Okay.
deal as opposed to whatever. I don't know what no, I'm not going to let her in the waiting room.
Oh yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. So at the board meeting, Van Bezel, who's the new president, did a great job in explaining what they did, explaining what they requested, explaining how Emory reacted. And the conversation was going really well. And then someone spoke up and said, I think we should just oppose it. Because if we support any of it, then we lose all leverage.
Oh my gosh.
And then that broke the dam. And at the end of the day, Druid Hills board voted to oppose the design. So, and the neighbors are incensed. I've been to several of their meetings. They know who I am. And I'm thinking about changing my name and email address because I'm starting to get emails from them and phone calls from them expressing their opinion. And I've tried to explain to them, I am not the decision maker. The NPU is not the decision maker.
Right.
If you're concerned about it, you got to talk to the council members.
Wow.
I spent some time with Van and a couple of their board members on Sunday, talking about process, talking about what they can do. And in the meantime, Darren Engel,
Yeah,
he resigned.
What's that about? He was doing a great job, I thought.
I thought so too. And what Van said that he found out on Sunday morning, like about 45 minutes before the time when we were going to talk, and Darren didn't even want to talk about it. So I don't know what's going on there.
That's weird.
So Van's going to be, I think, will attend our NPU meetings, but he knows he can't vote. He doesn't live in the city of Atlanta. So I don't know what the hell we're going to do with that. But I have received not an avalanche, but they're coming. I can tell they're coming because they're passing around my email address and my phone number.
This is really unfortunate. I really thought that Emory did a good job. Both with the design and with how they were approaching the community.
They did. They really did.
But it just shows you how one person can derail the best laid plans.
I know. So I think, do you remember the Oak Knoll rezoning? When Piedmont Heights voted to oppose it, but the NPU supported it.
Right.
I think this is going to be another Oak Knoll experience.
Yeah.
That we're just going to have to take the lead on it.
Well, it might be one of the few times where I would be in favor of letting Jack say what he wants, because he's going to say, you don't really have any grounds to oppose this.
Right, right.
So let's move on.
Right. The reason why they're opposing it is it all comes down to they just don't want it.
Yeah, well,
And I get that. And the reason why they don't want it is because there's some old growth trees that'll come down and they don't want the trees to go down.
yeah, I didn't love that part of the plan either, but
Right. But
you
Emory,
gotta house these people somewhere.
exactly.
And it's more advantageous to have them there where they can use the public transportation available on campus than each one of them being off in some private housing and driving back and forth to campus.
Right. I talked to one guy this morning who said, well, they could put it someplace else on the campus. Okay, the campus is big. I can appreciate that. There may be other places. So I said, well, where, give me an example of where it could go. And he said the lower fields. I don't know exactly where the lower fields are, but apparently it's like near the soccer fields or something around there.
Okay.
He said, there's a wooded area back there.
Oh, yeah, let's go cut those trees down.
Well, that's exactly what I asked him. I said, so, and I was asking in a clarifying way. So you mean we would cut down other trees rather than these trees? And he said, well, yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Yeah, let's put it in the middle of Hanwood, right?
I know. So
Or maybe they could buy Fernbank and put it there. Yeah, maybe some of those people in the single family houses across the street have lived there for 80 years, but I doubt it. I'm guessing when they bought their property, they knew that Emory was across the street from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a little like Kim and Scott complaining about Taco Mac making noise. You knew they were there when you bought your house.
Right. And they've seen Emory build and build.
Yeah.
There's no reason to expect them to not build because they are building everywhere. And they're building all over the damn city. They're looking for space.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thriving, growing university, which is a good thing.
It's a very good thing. And they want to be good neighbors. They want to be good citizens. David called me the day after.
Oh, God, he must have been frustrated.
Oh, was he ever? It was when he told me, he's been really good in keeping me up to date, a little too good, but he told me what Druid Hills had asked for and how Emory had responded. And then at the end of that, he said, but if they oppose us, then all bets are off.
Yeah.
The next day when I talked to him, he said, well, I didn't really mean that.
Well, but I kind of did.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure maybe David doesn't, but I bet there are some people at Emory that are saying exactly that. Well, screw them.
Yeah.
They didn't like that plan. Wait and see what they end up with.